think that, yeah, it works really well.
Especially when Totoro starts to get into his more like wiry physical stuff he has to do. Like,
oh my God,
when he gets kidnapped, and it starts the big plot point in play. But before Tom even brings him out into the forest, he's trying to just struggle and get out of the hands of the mobsters that are holding on to him. And it's like they directed him to like very just try as hard as you can to escape their capture, because he is just like, he's sliding on the ground like really pathetically, and he's just kicking and kind of shaking his body and screaming at the top of his lungs. Like, he's just absolutely going for it, and I love it. I absolutely love it. And that's before I love he starts begging for his life.
Yeah, and I love that a lot of that is shot from the point of view of Tom, like in the car, having arranged this to happen, like arranged him to get picked up and captured by Casper's men and everything.
And the entire time, Bernie is just saying, like, you can't let them do this to me. I mean, I didn't do anything. Like, he's specifically trying to talk to Tom from the moment he gets into the car.
Yeah, well, and what's so interesting is, once again, it directly compares like Tom as someone who is like maneuvering in the same territory as this character, but because this guy is like a small timer and more desperate than he is and more obvious about his plans, he is going to get taken into the woods and shot in the head, and there's something, he's kind of comfortable with that reality until they actually make him the one to.
That's the thing, right? He's totally okay with if the big guy or the old guy went out and did it. He'd just be like, oh, well, sucks, Bernie, but it had to be done. The moment he had to, get his hands dirty, that was when it was a problem. I also love the way that they present the old hitman gangster, where he's just so cold and professional, just because you can tell he's been doing it probably since he was like 20 years old. He's the one that gives Tom the gun and just says, like, just take him out, pop him in the head, and then we can go home. And it's just so like, this is my day to day. This is what I do every day. It is wild.
Yeah, no, like that's obviously a very iconic sequence. But I also love that, because part of this is you have to believe on some level that Tom is kind of changing sides. The movie kind of relies on you either thinking that he is, or that he is playing it as if, that's what's happening here, because his sort of play that he makes is to get into an altercation with Leo, make it public, make it personal over the relationship with Verna. He actually straight up tells him, like, Verna wasn't with you that night because she was with me, and this really upsets him. And I do love that Leo like literally like beats the shit out of him out of his own club. And you gotta love the look of the giant fat ties and suspenders that all these characters wear when they decide they're gonna get into a fight with each other. So the relationship between Tom and Leo gets kind of fractured, and I like that that Tom sort of investigates this in various ways. Like when he first goes to like Casper's lair, which is like all these concrete pillars and warehouse lights and leather couches and tacky like poker tables, and shit like that. And he goes and kind of sees like, what his offer is. Like, what will you do if I give up Bernie? And Casper is so funny, played by John Polito.
He's great.
His performance, it's so sweaty and angry, and he gets very upset, which is troublesome for if you're in a Coen Brothers movie, but he gets very upset about wordplay.
Yeah.
Where he's just like,
I also love his relationship with his son, where like he's clearly incredibly abusive, but the moment his son like the scene where he yells at his boy, and his son starts to cry, and then because he slaps him, and he starts holding him right after he hits him, and the kid starts to cry and just instantly
he's like screaming like a pig too, though. It's so funny.
Hit you? You're okay. Who hit you? As if he didn't just smack his child a second before. It's just, you can kind of see the two sides of his personality. Like he has a very kind of charismatic side a little bit, but then also very manipulative. So, you know, just seeing that where he's saying to his son, like disciplining him in that kind of way. And then, you know, kind of telling him like, oh, it wasn't even me. Like, it's still your dad. It's still your dad. It definitely translates to his business dealings as well.
Yeah. And I love just the way that he's always talking about, you know, again, he's kind of bullshitting, but he's bullshitting in a way that it feels like a dumb guy would actually kind of like believe this stuff. And he's just like, you know, being friends is like, you know, like a mental state, you know, like that kind of thing.
Yeah.
He tells him that, you know, you won't be able to walk out of here if you say no to me, if you don't give over Bernie. And Tom is like, would that be physically or mentally? I wouldn't be able to walk out of here. And it just sets him right the fuck off. He's like, I'm out of here. You fucked up. He sends in his goons to like beat his ass. And I love that the Coens love to just throw in little moments of personality like this, like that one giant goon who comes over to him and he lets Tom, you know, like take his coat off and get ready to fight because that's very gentlemanly. And then Tom immediately just beats him in the face with a chair, cracks it right over his face and breaks his nose. And he's like, Jesus, Tom.
Yeah, and then he even like he
walks out like he's been bullied on the schoolyard.
Yeah, and they don't do any fade or cut. They just like keep us still on Tom as he's waiting to see what happens next. And then I love that what happens is it's that old guy that I was talking about from the forest scene.